What's up, students? Welcome to our brand new podcast series where we're going to be diving into the lives of some of Jesus' closest followers and seeing some of the life lessons that we can take from them. So join me and my friends Chelsea and Adam as we dive in this week to the life of Andrew. What's up, y'all?
Hi.
Ready to go?
Going on, Joel?
Yeah.
So, Adam.
Yes, sir.
We have to start with start this podcast out with something really important here.
Yeah.
You've never had a gluten-free Oreo before.
Never in my life.
Never in your life.
On my mom's name.
So,
Heidi.
Heidi. What is your mom's name? Heidi? Shout out to Heidi. So Chelsea, you and me were talking. Yeah. We both really love gluten-free Oreos.
They're so much better than regular Oreos.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that because every other gluten-free thing I've had is
Right.
way worse
I'm
than the
totally
original.
with you. I'm totally with you.
I feel like we just need to have Adam do a blind taste test.
We absolutely have to.
So I don't know how to like blindfold you. We'll
Yeah, I
get
feel
a
like
headset
I just
on.
close
your
Okay,
eyes.
just
All right, cool.
close your
Chelsea,
eyes.
just pick a random one, whichever one you want to start. You guys can keep an eye on Adam's face to make sure that he's not like
Keep
cheating
your eyes
here.
closed.
All right.
I'm going to keep them closed
Keep
because
'em
they
closed.
do look different with different colors.
Right. They're a
All
little
right,
bit different
yeah.
colors.
Number one.
That's number one.
How do you feel about that?
There's something weird about this.
Something weird about it? Are you sure?
I have a lot of Oreos. This tastes off.
Okay.
In what
Right.
way?
It tastes vegetable-y.
Vegetable.
Yeah.
It's an Oreo.
There's
No way.
there's a substance to
No
that.
way.
Vegetable.
I'm ready for the second one, though.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
No palate cleanser needed.
The answer might surprise you.
The answer's going to really surprise
This one
him,
is
I
thicker.
think.
The one's thicker?
It's a
Okay.
little thicker.
Different smell. Chocolatier.
I love how this podcast is slowly becoming an ASMR.
That was like ASMR.
How do you feel about this one?
This one's way better.
Do you get vegetable flavors in
Really?
your mouth right
This
now?
one's way better.
Really?
Really?
It's creamier.
Okay.
It's chocolatier. I believe this is the real Oreo.
You're right.
You are correct,
is.
actually. Okay.
So, all right. I feel like they got to
So,
be double stuffed. Once
yeah.
you get that double stuffed action,
That's fair.
that I feel like is a real test. But vegetable?
Okay.
That first, John, tastes like a vegetable,
There's
man.
See-
no vegetable.
See, here's my
Try one
thought.
of these.
Yeah, I'll try one of these. Cool.
Adam, I think there's something wrong with your taste buds.
I think I'm just
It tastes
dialed.
perfectly fine.
I'm just dialed. I know exactly what
There
an
ain't
Oreo is
nothing
Or
supposed
you
to
were
taste
the
like.
worst person to ask about whether or not. Who would say vegetable-y for this?
A little bit of too much protein in
I'm
this one.
getting
Fiber.
notes
I'm getting
of
fiber.
celery stick.
You're
Okay,
funny.
for real. Do you watch cooking shows on like a streaming platform? Because
Here and
that's what
there.
you sound like here and there. Okay, it sounds like you've been developing this palette based off of the TV shows. That
My
you
little
watch.
sister loves Chopped Junior, like the kids
Yes.
that
That's a
cook.
good one.
You want to know a
It's
fun
tense.
fact?
Yeah.
I used to work for the TV show Chopped.
No way.
Yeah,
What?
I was in casting for it when I lived in New York
No.
City.
No way.
Yeah, for real, for real.
What did you do?
Yeah.
I
You
was in
found people?
casting. Yeah. I would go and find people and help audition them and like make all these like books that we would then send to the producers and then they would like pick who would be on the show.
That is a fun fact.
It was
That's
so
crazy.
fun.
How long did you do that for?
So it was 6 casting seasons, but each season lasted for like 5 months or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive, actually. Like, how many people do you think that you would have to like audition every single time
Oh,
for
my
like
goodness.
a season of the show?
Well, we would submit like 20 people
yeah.
per per submission, and they would pick like 4 out of that.
Wow.
But we would interview probably 40 to
Yeah.
submit that 15 to 20,
Mhm.
and then they would pick a handful from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a lot. Like
Yeah.
we interviewed a lot of people.
Wow. Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna finish the good.
Yeah,
Oreo.
I say go ahead and
Yeah.
finish that Oreo. So that's not
The
your
good
not
one.
your plant-based one, dude.
There's no plan.
Like we both tasted it. There is nothing
There's
vegetable about it. It
nothing
tastes like a
vegetable-y.
normal Oreo. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. So we're talking about the disciples here.
Mm-hmm.
Not talking about Oreos. We're talking about the disciples and their lives and too. So as we think about them, there are obviously people that we read about in the Bible, and you would hope to aspire to be, especially the way how they followed after Jesus and whatnot. Then too. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. Who is someone in your guys' life that you've looked up to before, and what kind of impact have they made on your life, on your faith, anything with that? Who's been someone that you guys have looked up to?
I'll start. My father, my dad.
Yeah.
Is probably like the best example. I've had a lot of people that I've looked up to throughout the years, but he's like one constant from like the day that I was first able to understand things and talk like till now. He's been someone I've looked up to as a man of faith, but also just like a person in general. Like he's just such a good dude. Yeah. I've learned so much from him. And I remember one time in particular, as it pertains to faith, I was trying to figure out what I believed. And like I grew up in a Christian home, so we were told that Jesus was the way to true life. Yeah. But then like I was not sure about that. And I was like, I don't know, can we trust the Bible? And I'm not sure I understand this part and this part. And he said to me, and I'll never forget it, he said, Adam, you can believe whatever you want to believe. We're going to love you no matter what. And the God that we believe in is going to love you too. And then he said, the truth always wins. He said, the truth always wins. And so if you seek the truth, you know, it's gonna win out. Yeah. And I ended up back with Jesus again because the truth always wins.
He was right.
He was right. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I would say my dad for me then too. But Chelsea, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I would say probably my mom is the first thing that comes to my mind. And I think that's pretty cool that like we go to our parents. Yeah. And I think that's really fortunate of us to have awesome parents that we can look up to like that. Is such a blessing. But my mom is like, I mean, since I was little, my mom has been my best friend. Like, she's just awesome in everything, and just the way she lives, the way she loves people, the way she loves God. She's just, fantastic. I love my mom.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, and obviously those people played a huge part in not just our lives growing up, but also in the way how we are in, or how their faith impacted us, how they helped us to understand who Jesus was into, and really that's what we're gonna be talking about with this series, right? Is looking at the, Jesus's closest friends and the way how they drew close to him, and then how they actually shared that faith with others and how that impacted them in the long run then as well too. So specifically with this week, I love to talk about Andrew. And what we know from Andrew in scripture, right, is that he was one of John the Baptist's original disciples. Then too, he eventually even brings Simon Peter to Jesus then at one point then too, and both of them go off to follow after Jesus then. And another fun little tidbit too is he's also the guy who brought the kid with the 5 loaves and 2 fish to Jesus at the feeding of the 5,000, right? So throughout the gospel, we see this dude like just continually bring people to Jesus then as well too. So when you think about that for your own lives and too, like what has maybe been a time in your life where you like, hey, I've felt like I've done the same thing where like I've been able to like kind of like steer people to Jesus the same way that maybe our parents have for us in our own lives, or something in that nature then too. When's been a time like that you guys can think about in your own lives?
I feel like for me, like the more on fire for God I am, the easier it is for me to just go out and tell people. Yeah. The more in love with God I am, the more I can't contain it to myself. I remember a couple times, like right after I accepted Jesus when I was 10 at a camp, I had to tell all my friends. Yeah. And I remember having sleepovers when I'm like, you guys need Jesus. And I led my friend to Jesus at a sleepover on the stairs. Like,
let's go.
It was because it's just something I couldn't keep in because I was so filled with the excitement and the love of God. It's like, I wanted to encourage other people towards that. I wanted to show other people this exciting, life-giving freedom and joy that I have. And it was just those seasons, I think it's just way easier to do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like, it's an outpouring. Right. Like it's an overflow of what you care about. Yeah. You talk about the things that you care about.
Right.
And so like it's easy for me to bring people to Jesus at times when I care the most about my relationship with Jesus. Right. And so that's ebbed and flowed throughout my life. I haven't always done a very good job at it. Frankly, I struggled big time middle school, high school, because I was very self-conscious and like aware of what other people thought of me. And I did not want them to think I was not cool or like have a reason to dislike me. And so I was not very public with my faith. But in college, I started to like make it my own. And that was when I started to be like, yo, I think I have like, you've been looking for like the thing that's going to give you meaning and purpose in life. I think I have it. Like, I think I got it. It's Jesus. Like, come to church with me. Yeah. And I think like we use the word like being a witness. That's really what it is. It's witnessing. I witnessed Jesus change me. Right. And I'm just telling other people about that.
Yeah. Can I go question off of that too, Adam? Specifically thinking through, like you said, in middle school and high school, it is hard to kind of like jump into that space. Do you guys feel or have ever felt like a true sense of urgency around sharing Jesus with others like that? Because even thinking about my own life, right? So, and context, like again, I grew up in a Christian household too, and like I was surrounded by faith my entire life. Had an incredible, church here I grew up in, and it was just some of my closest friends in my entire life are always following Jesus then too, right? So it was always something for me that was super hard. I had to be super intentional about, because I never necessarily felt that I didn't feel that urgency from the people around me, if that makes sense, because those people were already all following Jesus. So I'm just curious, like in your own lives, how have you guys wrestled with that tension? Because I think we should have urgency. But yeah, where has that shown up in your guys' lives? That urgency to tell others about Jesus?
Yeah, well, I think what you bring up is a good point, that it won't feel urgent if you're in like a little Christian bubble.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if everybody around you believes what you believe already or has heard about what you believe,
that everyone's good.
Yeah, then it literally like isn't even entering your sphere of consciousness that I might need to be urgent about it. It's only when you encounter people who have a different worldview that you start to realize, oh shoot, like there's some work to be done. Like Jesus wasn't lying when he said like you need to go out and share this with people.
Yeah, like I feel like when I was in middle school specifically is when I started to have friends who really struggled with their mental health. And struggled with thoughts of suicide and just awful things. And those are the times where I felt that much more urgent to share the love of God with them because of just the hard time that they were going through. Or I feel like an easy time that I always feel that like urgency is when somebody dies. It's like a family member passes away, a friend passes away, like makes you feel like, oh my gosh, like life is so short. We're not promised tomorrow. Like we need to be intentional about like taking as many people to heaven with us as we can, because we don't take anything else with us, but we can take people and we can show them the love of God. I think that those are also times like
that's good
for me that I've been like, oh my gosh, I have to tell people because like life, who knows like what's going to happen.
I'll play devil's advocate here for just a second, because I think we're in a really cool like thought process here. Like there are so many other people too outside of me who could be sharing with others about Jesus or bringing him to him. So like, why does it have to be me? Right? Like maybe there's a student who's thinking that, right? Like I have maybe a family member or a friend who's not following after Jesus. Like, why do I have to be their Andrew who's like bringing them to Jesus and then helping them experience that? Why me?
Can I play angel's advocate?
Let's go for it. Let's do it.
Why not you?
Right. That's fair.
Right? Like, why not you? And I think the only reason someone, myself, would ask a question like the one you asked is you don't want to because you don't see it benefiting you. Because you're thinking about yourself.
Right.
But actually, I do think, like, when you get to share your faith with somebody, that's a benefit for them, but also for you, too. If this is something that's changed your life, why would you not want someone that you care about to hear about it for the first time?
And your voice can speak in a way that somebody else's can't. And your experience and your sphere of influence is not everyone else's. And if God puts you in these people's circles, it's because he wants you to speak to them in the only way that you can, because who you're friends with and can speak to is not going to be the same that I can, because my life and experiences is different than yours. Both very valid and both very needed and both very important. But if we don't use what God has given us, then what good is that? It's not doing then good. But we have such an important and powerful voice that needs to be used in the people in our lives, because God put us in those people's lives for a reason, and we can be that light to them.
And that segues really well even into like that whole thought process around like, well, how do we practically even do that? Then like, what are the ways that we can identify for ourselves, like how we can share Jesus with others and how we can bring him to others as well too? I think, Chelsea, that's a great kind of first bit of it too. It's like, who are the people that God is surrounding you with? Right. And what specific ways are you speaking into their lives that only you can? Like those are the people that God's like uniquely positioning you for to like, I think just to, talk to them about him or to share about him or to, invite to come to church with you then too. Like those are the people that literally he's giving you the opportunity to do that as well then too. So, but what other ways practically can we just be like Andrew then, bringing others to Jesus and sharing our faith with them as well too? What other ways?
I feel like it's also in the way that we live. It's not just in how well we can tell other people about Jesus or like preach the message, but it's our everyday lives speak so much louder sometimes than our 5 minutes of words can. And if we are being a light to people, if we're being love to people, if we're living our lives in a way that's different, the people around us are going to notice. They're going to be like, what's up with this person? Like, they're not talking smack on everyone else like I am, or like everyone else is, or they're reacting in love when they should, in their mind, be reacting in turn, you know, like getting back at these people. What's different about them? And I think just if we can live different, if we can live changed by Jesus, if we can pursue him and become more like him every day, that's going to be a testament and speak volumes in people's lives. In addition to when we can say, hey, this is why I'm different. This is why I don't feel or react the way that people do. This is why I have hope in the middle of a storm. Is because my anchor is Jesus. And then we get to share that.
That's good. One of the phrases that we use at a lot of the teams that I get to be a part of at the church is includer eyes. Like includer eyes. It just means you have eyes to include people in what's happening. And so like that works out really practically by just like if you're standing in a circle of people and talking, you're looking outside the circle, that person looked lonely, bring them into the conversation. But I think it's the same thing with like your faith. Like you should be constantly having includer eyes. Who are the people around me that I need to include in the family, the community, the connection, the purpose that comes from a relationship with Jesus? Because their life's going to be better if they follow Jesus.
And you don't have to be weird about it.
No, that's
like it's
true.
not something
Please
that,
don't be. Please
right?
don't be.
That's not helpful at all. But it can be just something that's naturally like literally loving other people, including them, being like, hey, I see you. Can move mountains for people in their lives. You don't have to stand on the corner and say, Jesus loves you. You must turn to him. Like, all right, cool if you want to. But like, it's just living that out and loving people, including them, surrounding them, caring about them. Like, just does so much.
And really with all this too, I think it even starts with like, how are we doing at making sure that we're bringing ourselves to Jesus then too, right? Like if we're saying that we're following after him, how are we doing to like make sure that our relationship with him is growing, right? Because like even in the story with, you know, Andrew then too, right? Like he already knew about Jesus ever before, you know, and had conversations with him or interactions with him or whatever, well before he ever brought Simon Peter to him, and you know before they all kind of went off and you know did their thing following after Jesus then too, right? Like there was conversations and just intentional time spent with Jesus before that then too, right? So it's like, what are we doing to prepare ourselves to share Jesus with others then as well too, like whether that's you know making sure that we're spending time in God's word or in prayer, or even just being surrounded with people like at HSM or Collide, like where we have people who are pouring into us that can help continue to draw us closer to him too. I think those are just again other great ways that we can make sure that our hearts and our relationship with God is in a good place, and too, because the more that is, the more I think authentic and genuine those interactions become, and they don't become like the weird, awkward ones or the you know ones that feel like a little often too. But
yeah, can I bring something up? And this is help me process. I want to hear your response to this, because I think a lot of times I get worried that they're not gonna like what I have to say, like they won't like that I'm like introducing them to Jesus. But what I've started to think about is I'm from New York, and in the town that I'm from, we have this thing called
I'm walking here.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we all talk.
That's how you all talk. No, I'm kidding.
We have this thing called the garbage plate. Garbage plate.
A garbage plate.
Yeah, it's this like random assortment of foods and like hamburgers and hot dogs and it's crazy stuff. But it's like our thing in our city. And so anytime someone comes to Rochester, I say, "Oh, you got to get a garbage plate. You got to try the garbage plate." And I'm never worried that they won't like it. Because I know some of them won't like it. It's not a very popular item outside of Rochester for a reason. But I always tell them about it because it's our thing. It's just what I do. It's like, this is our thing. You've got to try it. And I almost like, why don't I think that way about my relationship with Jesus? Like, it's okay if they don't like it. You know?
Because it's personal. It's not a food that is an inanimate object, or whatever the words are.
You got
right?
Yeah.
But like Jesus is personal because he's personally affected our lives and shaped us and who we are today. So if we say, here's Jesus, because we're becoming more like him, if they're like, yeah, I don't like him, it's really feeling like they're saying you don't like me.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we're being infused with Jesus, becoming more like him. When it's food, it's like, oh, you don't like it, I don't really care. I'm not personally offended that you don't like the food that I made or the food that I like, because it's personal. I think, at least.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, how much better is Jesus than a garbage plate?
Seriously, it doesn't even sound good.
Yeah.
Like,
It isn't good, to be honest. It's not good.
Jesus is so
like
much better.
Yeah. But I think, Chelsea, you hit it really well, right? Like, there is so much, it's so personal, and also, like, truthfully too, like, even for myself and too at times, like there's a lot of like insecurity then too of even having those conversations around like, does this person still want to stay friends with me after I have this conversation then too? And like stuff like that can, I think, can also be, again, like one of those things that, like, I know it's super fun, or that being in a relationship with Jesus is exactly where I need to be. It's the best thing that can happen for me in my life. And I want others to experience that too, because I know it will be the exact same thing for them. But I think a lot of times we get caught up in the, like, well, how will this change what we have right now, right? And like, there's like that like little bit of fear and worry around like, well, how will things change in those relationships that can also hold us back from that then too.
Because there's something at stake.
Yeah.
You know, not only the relationship with that person, because they might say like, oh my gosh, you're weird, no thanks, right? And that like hurts and feels personal.
Right.
But also like that person's eternity is at stake. Like without Jesus, my goodness, like that's awful. And so there's so much at stake. And so that's why I think it makes it bigger too, because there is that. Yeah.
I think back to, again, this just image of like Andrew finding this kid at the feeding of 5,000, right? And like, you know, I'm sure at that moment, like the disciples knew like the feat that was ahead of them of like, and even talk about too, right? It's like, we would have to work for like forever to have enough money to buy enough food for these people. Like
there's over 5,000 people. That's a lot of people to feed.
That's just 5,000 like dudes. Like that's not including like, you know,
women and children and everything. Like who knows what the real number was.
Right. So, I mean, like they're seeing this ginormous crowd in front of them.
Yeah.
And Andrew's like first response is like, let me bring this kid who literally has like a small packed lunch. Right. And that's it. But like, how cool is that like he didn't let what he thought the kid's response to it going to be, or like what was going to be, like dictate how he was going to share Jesus with him and like bring him to Jesus and let like Jesus just use what little he had in a really incredible way then too. So
talk about include her eyes.
Yeah, very much include her eyes. Yeah.
You can. It's very easy to literally physically look over him,
and
then how much more so even just like there was a problem to be solved, and he was able to see that kid.
Yeah, cool. Nah, super cool. But
and see the power of God in that kid, because with that kid's lunch alone, it was not going to do any good, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
The disciples could have a snack, but like that would be about it. But knowing how powerful Jesus was and is to use that to multiply it. He came hopeful, knowing of like, hey, Jesus, this is what we found. What can you do with it? And he said, watch me, you know? Like,
well, even imagine like the other disciples' reactions then too, right? Like obviously like I'm not like throwing shade at them in the sense of like, they're not like excited about bringing other people to Jesus too, but you have to
reality of it, right?
Like Andrew, why him?
If we think about it in this day and age, if one of our friends, if we had this big crazy event, say like one of our retreats, right? Yeah. And we're like, shoot, we ran out of food. How are we going to feed all these people? What are we going to do? And then we see Timmy brought his lunch bag, right?
It's a Lunchable.
It's quite
literally nothing but a Lunchable, yeah.
We're going to be like, dude, really? Like, good try. That's sweet of you, but like, come on. Like, so if we put ourselves in their shoes, like, it totally is realistic for them to be like, what are you doing?
Nah, it was like, it won't happen. But again, even in the difference with that situation, right, is like they had Jesus right there with them too, right? I mean, they've seen this guy do crazy things before them too. So but like, I love, again, just like that image of like Andrew just didn't allow the situation around him or even what his preconceived notions about Jesus or whatever, like he didn't let that get in the way.
Or his fears or insecurities, like you were saying, or like, he just said, here's what we got, Jesus, what will you do with it? And he did.
Yeah, it's super powerful. Well, y'all, thanks for hopping in for this week. We're going to continue to have some awesome conversations in the weeks to come then. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time.